Billy Harold Johnson was born in rural Saline County, Arkansas in 1935. But by 1946, at age 11, the family moved to the Walnut Ridge Army Airfield, Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, which was, at the time, still active in storing, dismantling, and recycling thousands of World War II aircraft, including bombers and fighter planes. The activity left its mark on the young Johnson.
Right after my 11th birthday, probably moved here in late August of 46. At the time, this place was covered with airplanes. Some folks say there were 10,000 airplanes here. One book says there were 11,000 airplanes here at Walnut Ridge. And there were airplanes all around the hospital complex at that time, and around the officers' quarters, and around the white quarters, and just the whole place was covered with airplanes. So I got introduced to airplanes here in a big way in a short time, and that's probably when I developed my interest in airplanes. So I'd hang around the airport, I'd help them fuel the airplanes and wash the airplanes and tinker around with them a little bit and prop the airplanes when they needed to be started, because back then most all those small airplanes didn't have starters on them, or electrical systems for that matter.
By age 16, Johnson was taking flying lessons and earned his private pilot's license in 1952. In his early 20s, he was working in Missouri at an Air Force contracted flying school. In 1960, Johnson moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, again to work as a flying instructor, later moving to Memphis to work as chief flight instructor at Delta Beechcraft. In 1965, he was hired by Southern Airways as a first officer, where he often flew commercial flights in the then popular DC-9 aircraft.
Taught a lot of people to fly, and I think I did a pretty good job at that, and I think I came up with a lot of safe pilots, and that was rewarding to see some of those folks go on and make a career of aviation. Some of them became airline pilots, and some became military pilots, and various things, and some were just private pilots all of their life, but that was rewarding.
It was on this job in 1972, while Johnson was co-pilot of a routine flight from Birmingham, the flight would propel Johnson and 22 passengers into aviation history.
We took off from Birmingham and gotten up about 10 minutes, I suppose, into the flight, and suddenly heard a scuffle back in the galley, and my initial thought was that we have a lot of pass riders, employees can ride jump seat and ride passes and whatever. And so I thought we probably had a station personnel had boarded, and they were just horseplaying with the flight attendants. And then suddenly the cockpit door burst open, and in came the flight attendant, and there was a colored man, had his arm around her neck, and had a gun up to her head, and said, Billy Bob, that was the captain, we're taking over the flight. And so flight attendant said, Billy Bob, he's not kidding.
The hijacking lasted over 30 hours and included refueling stops in nearly a dozen cities, including 2 times to Havana, Cuba, while the irate hijackers demanded money and threatened death all the way.
And so it became pretty apparent that he was going to shoot, and I dived for the floor, and when I did, he fired, and the bullet went through the tray table and the seat back and into my arm, and I blacked out momentarily, and when I came to, he was standing over me telling me to get up. He was going to kill me.
The hijackers were captured on the second stop in Cuba and served several years in prison. All the passengers and crew survived, thanks to the heroics and calm nature of Johnson and his fellow crew members, and Johnson suffering the entire time from the gunshot wound to his shoulder. Johnson continued a career as a commercial pilot and retired from Republic Airlines in 1983. Johnson was a founding member of the Walnut Ridge Army Flying School Museum, now known as the Wings of Honor Museum, located at the site of the old air base and now the airport for the city of Walnut Ridge. He serves to this day as the president of the museum. The museum houses an impressive collection of memorabilia from the flying school and World War II in general. From age 15 until now, Harold Johnson still has a love for flying and aviation and continues to share his time and energy to forward the cause of aviation with every new generation. His efforts in the museum have educated tens of thousands of people to the history of aviation in Arkansas and every day he continues to earn his place in Arkansas aviation history.